throughout history, shadows have concealed the greatest mysteries of humanity. In the hidden corners of power, secret societies have risen, shaping events, influencing empires, and inspiring myths that persist to this day. Who were they? What did they seek? And how much of our history was shaped by their veiled hands? In this brand new series, Veiled Powers, the Secret Societies That Shaped History, we embark on an extraordinary journey to uncover the truth behind the most enigmatic organizations the world has ever known. From the Freemasons and the Illuminati to the Knights Templar and beyond, we'll explore their origins, the legends, and the undeniable impact they've had on history and society. Today, we begin with the first chapter in this gripping saga. And this is just the beginning. Over the coming weeks, we'll delve deep into the hidden corridors of power, revealing secrets that will leave you questioning what you thought you knew about history. If you're ready to unravel the mysteries of the past and discover the stories they never taught you in school, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Don't miss a single revelation as we unveil the veiled powers of history.
The story of the Freemasons begins in medieval Europe, an era defined by grand architectural feats. Between the 12th and 15th centuries, the construction of cathedrals like Notre Dame in Paris, Chartres Cathedral in France, and Canterbury Cathedral in England showcased the unparalleled skill of stonemasons. Stonemasons were more than artisans; they were engineers, mathematicians, and visionaries. Their work required not only physical labor, but also an intimate knowledge of geometry and physics. These craftspeople formed guilds to pass their expertise from master to apprentice, ensuring their trade secrets remained protected. Guilds, such as the one that oversaw the construction of Westminster Abbey in London, were more than professional organizations. They operated like fraternities, fostering camaraderie and trust among their members. These guilds used symbols like the square and compass to identify themselves and their craft. By the 16th century, these guilds began to take on a more mysterious role. With the decline of cathedral construction, some lodges, such as those in Scotland, transitioned from operative stonemasonry to speculative Freemasonry. This shift allowed intellectuals, scholars, and nobles, people like Sir Robert Moray, a Scottish philosopher and statesman, to join their ranks. Moray was initiated into a Masonic lodge at Newcastle upon Tyne in 1641, making him one of the earliest recorded speculative Freemasons. These speculative lodges blended the practical skills of stonemasonry with philosophical discussions about morality, human nature, and the universe. One of the earliest records of Freemasonry dates to 1598, with the Shaw Statutes, written by William Shaw, Master of Works to King James VI of Scotland. These statutes laid out the rules for stonemason lodges, including codes of conduct and the roles of members. Shaw's reforms helped organize the lodges into a formal structure, creating the foundation for modern Freemasonry. The Lodge of Edinburgh, Mary's Chapel, chartered in 1599, is the world's oldest Masonic lodge still in existence. Here, men began discussing not just stonework, but also ideas of enlightenment, fraternity, and self-improvement. In England, the evolution of speculative Freemasonry took another step forward with the initiation of Elias Ashmole in 1646. Ashmole, an antiquarian, astrologer, and founding member of the Royal Society, recorded his initiation in his diary, providing one of the earliest personal accounts of speculative masonry. His involvement signaled a growing trend. Lodges were no longer limited to craftsmen. They became havens for thinkers and intellectuals who saw Freemasonry as a way to explore higher truths and moral principles. By the early 18th century, Freemasonry began its transformation into a global organization. The founding of the first Grand Lodge in London in 1717 marked a pivotal moment. Prominent figures like Sir Christopher Wren, the architect of St. Paul's Cathedral, were rumored to be members. As Freemasonry spread across Europe and the American colonies, it carried with it the ideals of liberty, equality, and fraternity. These ideals would later inspire revolutions and movements that shaped the modern world. To understand how Freemasonry rose to prominence, we must look at the key event in 1717, when Freemasonry as we know it today began its rise into an organized and global movement. On June 24th, for existing Masonic lodges from London, namely the Lodge of St. Paul's, the Lodge of the Goose and Gridiron, the Lodge of the Crown, and the Lodge of the Apple Tree, met at the Goose and Gridiron Tavern in St. Paul's Churchyard, central London. It was here that they made a historic decision to unite under one banner. They created the Grand Lodge of England, an institution that would eventually oversee and guide the future of Freemasonry. The Grand Lodge was a revolutionary concept at the time, uniting independent lodges under a centralized authority. Its first Grand Master was Anthony Sayer, a little-known figure in Masonic history, but his election was symbolic in creating a framework for future leadership. For the first time, Masonic rituals, practices, and governance will be unified, setting the stage for the rapid expansion of Freemasonry across Britain and the world. As the Grand Lodge began to assert its authority, Freemasonry attracted some of the most prominent figures in intellectual and political circles, helping to transform it into a powerful force of the Enlightenment. One of the key figures in Freemasonry's rise was John Theophilus de Saguiers, a scientist and philosopher who was deeply involved with the Royal Society, the preeminent scientific institution in Britain. De Saguiers was also a man of faith, ordained as a clergyman in the Church of England. His work bridged the gap between science and religion, and he used his position to reform and systematize Masonic rituals. His influence helped integrate Enlightenment ideals, such as reason, progress, and individual liberty, into Masonic philosophy. De Saguiers worked tirelessly to standardize Masonic rituals and texts, and by the 1720s, his involvement had established him as the most influential Masonic figure of his time. His contributions helped Freemasonry become a safe haven for men who sought intellectual stimulation and political conversation during a period marked by royal absolutism and religious conflict. At the same time, the influence of Freemasonry spread rapidly across Europe, particularly to France. Figures like Voltaire, Rousseau, and Montesquieu, all key figures in Enlightenment, were drawn to the Masonic lodges, which offered a forum for discussion free from the constraints of monarchies and churches. These French intellectuals, often at odds with the French monarchy and Catholic Church, found solace in the Masonic movement. The fraternity's emphasis on equality, personal liberty, and the pursuit of truth spoke directly to the growing dissatisfaction with the absolute monarchy of King Louis XV and his court. While Freemasonry grew in Europe, it was also spreading across the Atlantic, particularly in the American colonies, where it took on a unique and revolutionary role. By the 1730s, Masonic lodges had been established in cities like Boston, Philadelphia, and Charleston, and the fraternity's influence would soon reach critical mass in the lead-up to the American Revolution. Among the earliest lodges in America was the St. John's Lodge in Boston, founded in 1733, and the Lodge of the Nine Sisters in Philadelphia, which became a center for political and intellectual thought. These early American lodges not only served as social gathering spots, but also as forums for discussing ideas of liberty and self-governance. The founding fathers of the United States, many of whom were initiated into the craft, played a pivotal role in Freemasonry's success in America. George Washington, initiated into the Fredericksburg Lodge in Virginia in 1752, would later become a symbol of Masonic values. His participation in cornerstone-laying ceremonies, such as for the U.S. Capitol, became a Masonic tradition, linking the rise of Freemasonry to the construction of a new republic. Other key figures in the American Revolution, such as Benjamin Franklin, Paul Revere, and John Hancock, were also Freemasons. Franklin's diplomatic mission to France played a critical role in securing French aid during the Revolution. Revere, famously known for his midnight ride, was deeply embedded in the Masonic culture, and John Hancock's flamboyant Masonic character only added to the mystique of the movement in the New World. Despite its rapid growth, Freemasonry was not without its detractors. The Catholic Church, particularly in the 18th century, viewed Freemasonry with suspicion due to its secrecy and its ideological opposition to the Church's authority. The most notable early condemnation came in 1738, when Pope Clement XII issued the papal bull In Eminenti Apostolatus, formally excommunicating any Catholic who joined the Freemasons. Many other Catholic monarchs followed suit, banning Masonic lodges in their realms. But despite this opposition, Freemasonry continued to thrive in countries like France, Italy, and Spain, often operating in secret to avoid persecution. Rumors surrounding Freemasonry grew as well. Some accused the fraternity of plotting to overthrow the church or even of involvement in dark and sinister activities. These conspiracies helped cement Freemasonry's mystique and allure, even as its true purpose remained focused on mutual aid and self-improvement. As Europe entered a period of unrest, Freemasonry found itself at the center of revolutionary movements, particularly in France. The French Revolution, which began in 1789, was deeply intertwined with Masonic ideals of liberty, equality, and fraternity. Key figures like the Marquis de Lafayette, a hero of both the American Revolution and the French Revolution, and Philippe Égalité, the Duke of Orleans, were prominent Freemasons who embraced the ideals of the Enlightenment. Lafayette, in particular, was known for his connection to the French Masonic movement, which he used as a platform to promote constitutional monarchy and democratic ideals in France. While some historians debate the direct influence of Freemasonry on the course of the French Revolution, there is no denying that the fraternity played an essential role in the spread of revolutionary thought throughout Europe and the Americas. By the time of the Revolution, Freemasonry had become deeply ingrained in French society. The iconic Eye of Providence, often seen on Masonic symbols, would later be used on revolutionary flags and banners, symbolizing vigilance and divine guidance in the face of oppression. The late 18th and early 19th centuries marked a critical juncture in the political landscape, with Freemasonry deeply embedded in the political movements of the time. The ideals espoused by Freemasons, liberty, equality, and fraternity, were not just abstract principles but guiding forces for revolutions across Europe and the Americas. In the United States, after the American Revolution, Freemasonry's ideals of self-governance and democratic rights resonated with a new nation's ambitions. However, it was in France, with the French Revolution of 1789, that Freemasonry truly demonstrated its political power. Key figures like the Marquis de Lafayette and others took part in the revolution, motivated by Masonic principles of liberty and justice. Freemasons were not just bystanders but active participants in revolutionary efforts, pushing for the overthrow of monarchies and the establishment of republics. Similarly, in Europe, Freemasons contributed to movements that sought to bring down old regimes, such as the rise of liberalism and the push for constitutional monarchies. The role of Freemasonry in the formation of the United States government is a critical chapter in American history. Many of the founding fathers were Freemasons, and their political ideals were heavily influenced by Masonic principles. George Washington, who was the first president of the United States, was a lifelong Freemason, and his participation in the creation of the new nation reflected his Masonic beliefs in liberty and justice. Benjamin Franklin, also a prominent Freemason, helped secure France's military and financial support during the American Revolution. The influence of Freemasonry extended beyond the founders, with Masons like John Hancock and Paul Revere playing significant roles in the American Revolution. Furthermore, the architectural design of Washington, D.C. was heavily inspired by Masonic symbolism. The Capitol building and the Washington Monument both contain Masonic elements, from the use of the number 13, representing the 13 original colonies, to the Eye of Providence, the symbol of Freemasonry, on the Great Seal of the United States. As Freemasonry spread across Europe and the Americas, it became increasingly involved in global revolutionary movements. In Latin America, Freemasons played a central role in the struggle for independence from Spanish colonial rule. Prominent Freemasons such as Simón Bolívar and José de San Martín led the charge for liberation, advocating for republican governments based on Masonic principles of liberty and equality. Bolívar, often referred to as the Liberator, was deeply influenced by Freemasonry, and his Masonic affiliations were vital in building political and military alliances across South America. Bolívar's vision of a united Latin America, though ultimately unfulfilled, was rooted in Masonic ideals of fraternity and self-governance. In Europe, the revolutions of 1848 were marked by widespread uprisings in favor of democratic reforms, and Freemasons again were at the forefront, pushing for constitutional rights and political participation. The secretive nature of the Freemasons allowed them to operate behind the scenes, orchestrating revolutions while advocating for a republican, more just society. Throughout the 19th and 20th centuries, Freemasonry continued to shape political ideologies around the world, particularly as the world became more politically interconnected. The Freemasons' enduring commitment to the principles of liberty, justice, and fraternity influenced the development of liberal political movements and the growth of democracy. In the United States, Freemasons helped promote the rise of political parties and institutions, establishing the framework for a modern democracy. In Europe, Freemasons were deeply involved in the creation of constitutional monarchies and the abolition of feudal systems. Throughout the 20th century, many world leaders, including Franklin Roosevelt, Winston Churchill, and Harry Truman, were members of the Freemason fraternity. Their political decisions were often guided by the Masonic principles they had embraced, from the establishment of international organizations like the United Nations to the push for civil rights and the expansion of democratic freedoms. In the 21st century, Freemasonry continues to influence politics, albeit in more subtle ways. While not as overtly involved in political movements as in the past, Freemasons still play a key role in various sectors of society, from local politics to international diplomacy. The fraternity's enduring principles of fraternity, equality, and justice continue to shape the values of political movements and ideologies worldwide. Today, Freemasons remain involved in charitable endeavors, civil rights movements, and the promotion of democratic values. The continued influence of Freemasonry in shaping political ideologies is evident in the legacy of political leaders, the symbolism embedded in public institutions, and the ideals that continue to guide the global pursuit of freedom and equality. While Freemasonry's roots are deeply embedded in the West, its influence has spread across the globe, impacting political movements, culture, and society in many regions, including the Middle East, Asia, and Africa. Freemasonry's commitment to equality, liberty, and fraternity resonated with leaders in these regions, many of whom became Freemasons or were influenced by Masonic ideals. In Africa, figures like Kwame Nkrumah, the first president of Ghana, were known to be Freemasons. Nkrumah, who led Ghana to independence from British colonial rule in 1957, often advocated for Pan-African unity, and his policies were in line with the Masonic principles of fraternity and equality. Similarly, Jomo Kenyatta, the first president of Kenya, was reported to have been influenced by Masonic ideas during his time in London and in his rise to power. In the Middle East, Freemasonry has had a more clandestine presence, but its influence can still be traced through prominent figures. King Hussein of Jordan, a member of the royal family, was known to have strong connections with Freemasonry. His Masonic ties helped foster diplomatic relations between Jordan and other nations, as well as influencing the political stability of his reign. The Middle East, particularly Egypt, has seen numerous Freemasons in positions of power. Egyptian leaders like Gamal Abdel Nasser and Anwar Sadat, both of whom played pivotal roles in shaping the region's politics during the 20th century, were believed to be influenced by Masonic ideals, especially in their efforts toward Arab unity and the creation of more inclusive, democratic governments. In Asia, the influence of Freemasonry was particularly evident in India during the British colonial era. Jawaharlal Nehru, India's first prime minister, was reportedly influenced by Masonic ideas during his education in England. Nehru's focus on democratic governance, secularism, and social justice were aligned with the core principles of Freemasonry. Similarly, Ho Chi Minh, the revolutionary leader of Vietnam, is said to have been influenced by Masonic ideas during his time in Europe, which shaped his vision of national independence and equality. Freemasonry's influence also extended to celebrities and cultural icons in various regions. For instance, Orson Welles, though not a political figure, was a well-known Freemason who became an icon of intellectual and artistic freedom. His influence on films and literature, especially in third world countries, inspired many cultural movements that aligned with Freemason ideals of intellectual liberty and self-expression. From Africa to Asia, Freemasonry's global influence is undeniable. Leaders from Kwame Nkrumah to Jawaharlal Nehru, King Hussein to Ho Chi Minh were not just political figures, they were part of a broader movement driven by Masonic values. These figures were instrumental in shaping their respective nations and, in many cases, the broader world. While the presence of Freemasonry in these regions was often covert, its impact on the ideologies that drove national independence and social progress is undeniable. In the 20th and 21st centuries, Freemasonry has continued to thrive, adapting to the changing political and social landscape. Following the turbulence of the two world wars, Freemasonry played a stabilizing role, continuing to champion values of equality, brotherhood, and charity. In countries where the political landscape had been volatile, such as the United States, the Freemasons provided a framework of stability. The post-World War II era saw Freemasonry flourish in the Western world, particularly in the United States, where it became deeply ingrained in the political and cultural landscape. Many U.S. presidents, including Harry Truman, Gerald Ford, and George Bush, were Freemasons, which solidified the society's public image as an influential network in global politics. However, the 21st century presented new challenges. The rise of secularism and the decline of traditional institutions led to a reduction in Freemasonry's membership, especially in Western nations. Despite this, Freemasonry has remained active in other parts of the world, especially in Eastern Europe, Latin America, and parts of Africa, where its principles of charity and community service continue to resonate. The influence of Freemasonry extends well beyond the political realm. Freemasons have made significant contributions to the fields of business, media, and entertainment. Prominent figures in business, such as Walt Disney, Rockefeller, and Henry Ford, were members of the Freemasons, using their positions to further the ideals of Freemasonry through their philanthropic efforts and business ventures. In the entertainment industry, Freemasons have played pivotal roles in shaping American culture. Figures like Clint Eastwood and Broderick Crawford were Freemasons, and their influence in media helped perpetuate Masonic values of independence and fraternity. Even in the media world, Freemasonry has had a profound impact. Television networks, film studios, and major newspapers have been known to have Freemason members in key positions, influencing the portrayal of social issues, charity work, and governance in the media. Despite its long-standing history and influence, Freemasonry faces challenges and controversies in the modern world. One of the key criticisms is its secretive nature, which has led to conspiracy theories and mistrust. Freemasons are often accused of manipulating political and economic systems from behind the scenes, with critics alleging that the society controls key institutions globally. Many critics point to the fact that Freemasonry has historically been an all-male organization, with women excluded until very recently. The issue of gender equality within Freemasonry has sparked debates, leading to the formation of women's Masonic lodges and calls for reform within traditional Masonic organizations. In addition, the rise of secularism and a decline in religious influence have made Freemasonry's religious connections more contentious. Some view it as a challenge to religious authority, especially given Freemasonry's commitment to religious tolerance and the emphasis on personal belief rather than allegiance to any one religion. Despite these controversies, Freemasons continue to defend their society as a force for good, arguing that their focus is on charitable work, personal development, and community service. Today, Freemasonry exists as a global fraternity with a rich and complex history. While it continues to shape the political, cultural, and philanthropic landscape, it faces new challenges as it adapts to a rapidly changing world. The values of equality, brotherhood, and charity remain integral to the Freemasons' mission, but the society must continue to address criticism, overcome misconceptions, and remain relevant in a modern, interconnected world. Freemasonry, while originating in Europe, has had a profound impact globally, reaching across continents to influence political and cultural landscapes in Asia, Africa, and Latin America. The principles of brotherhood, liberty, and equality resonated deeply in many parts of the world, particularly during periods of colonialism and revolution. In India, for example, the influence of Freemasonry became evident during British colonial rule. Several prominent figures, including Raja Rammohun Roy, an Indian social reformer, were associated with Freemasonry. While the British Freemason lodges were initially instrumental in spreading Masonic ideals, the rise of Indian independence movements saw the formation of indigenous Masonic lodges that promoted social reform and a sense of unity among diverse communities. Similarly, in Latin America, the ideals of Freemasonry were closely tied to the struggle for independence. Many of the leaders of Latin American revolutions, including Simón Bolívar, José de San Martín, and Manuel Belgrano, were Freemasons. Their Masonic affiliations reinforced their commitment to democratic principles and the idea of a united, independent Latin America. The Middle East also saw the influence of Freemasonry, especially during the late 19th and early 20th centuries, when it was introduced by Western colonial powers and trading elites. In Egypt, Freemasonry was seen as a progressive force, attracting intellectuals and reformists. The Grand Lodge of Egypt was established in Cairo in the 19th century, and many prominent figures, such as Mustafa Kemal, an Egyptian nationalist leader, were Freemasons. In Turkey, Freemasonry's influence was particularly strong during the formation of the Republic of Turkey under Mustafa Kemal Ataturk. Ataturk, whose reformist policies sought to modernize Turkey, was reportedly involved with Freemasonry, and many of the nation's leaders shared similar Masonic beliefs in the pursuit of secularism, modernity, and national unity. In the early 20th century, Freemasonry spread through the Middle East and North Africa, influencing leaders and intellectuals in countries like Lebanon, Syria, and Tunisia. Its emphasis on Enlightenment values and the promotion of education and progress resonated with many in the region, despite occasional clashes with conservative religious and political forces. In Africa, Freemasonry found fertile ground for growth in the post-colonial era. Many African leaders, including Kwame Nkrumah of Ghana, Jomo Kenyatta of Kenya, and Nelson Mandela of South Africa, were associated with Freemasonry, though the nature of their involvement varied. In countries like Ghana and Kenya, Freemasonry played a significant role in the independence movements, fostering solidarity among African leaders and promoting the values of unity, equality, and justice. Freemasonry's involvement in the struggle for independence can be traced back to the early 20th century, when many African intellectuals and reformers saw it as a means to challenge colonial rule. In countries like South Africa, Freemasonry's influence continued after independence, particularly among political leaders and cultural elites, who saw Freemasonry as a way to unite different groups within their societies. Today, Freemasonry remains a respected institution in many African countries, with an emphasis on education, charity, and community service. Its presence in African politics and culture continues to be strong, although it faces challenges from conservative religious and political forces. Freemasonry's legacy is not just political, it's cultural as well. From Freemason-designed landmarks like the Washington National Cathedral to the creation of influential social movements, Freemasonry's impact is still visible in society. The society's dedication to charity, brotherhood, and moral improvement is reflected in countless charitable foundations, educational initiatives, and healthcare projects across the globe. In the arts and literature, Freemasonry's influence is seen in the works of writers like Mark Twain, Voltaire, and Molière, who were deeply connected to Masonic ideas. In modern society, Freemasonry has continued to inspire contemporary artists, filmmakers, and writers who see the society's values as deeply embedded in the pursuit of knowledge, personal development, and creative expression. Freemasonry's global legacy continues to be a significant part of world history. From its early days in Europe to its spread across Africa, Asia, and the Americas, Freemasonry has shaped political movements, fostered social change, and influenced cultural development. Despite the challenges it faces, Freemasonry's core values, brotherhood, charity, and moral improvement, remain as relevant today as they were centuries ago. Freemasonry has remained active in many parts of the world, albeit often in a more secretive manner due to societal changes and modern sensibilities. Today, Freemasonry has millions of members across the globe, involved in a variety of charitable and philanthropic activities. However, the society has also faced significant challenges, especially in the wake of global suspicion and modern conspiracy theories. Freemasonry has evolved in some countries to embrace more progressive social policies, such as advocating for gender equality in some lodges and contributing to modern charitable causes like medical research, disaster relief, and education. In countries like the United States, United Kingdom, and Canada, Freemasonry remains a well-established institution with a long tradition of community service and social activism. Despite its significant historical influence, Freemasonry has seen a decline in membership over the past few decades, especially in Western countries. Modern society, with its increasing skepticism about secret societies and the proliferation of digital information, has led many to question the relevance of Freemasonry. Many lodges have had to adapt, opening their doors to greater transparency and reevaluating some of their ancient rituals and practices. In some regions, Freemasonry has struggled to attract younger members, who are less inclined to join secretive organizations. However, the principles of Freemasonry, such as moral uprightness, self-improvement, and community service, continue to resonate with people seeking meaningful ways to make a difference in their societies. Perhaps one of the most enduring aspects of Freemasonry's legacy is its association with conspiracy theories. From accusations of world domination to controlling the global banking system, Freemasons have long been the subject of a variety of unfounded and exaggerated claims. Many of these conspiracies have been fueled by misunderstandings about the society's secretive nature, the influential positions of some of its members, and the symbolic rituals that are often misinterpreted. The most popular conspiracy theories include the belief that Freemasons control major political systems and that they have been behind key historical events, such as the American Revolution and World War II. While these theories have no basis in fact, they continue to captivate the public imagination, keeping the mystique of Freemasonry alive. In the realm of modern culture, Freemasonry remains a popular topic in movies, books, and even video games. From films like The Da Vinci Code to popular novels and documentaries, Freemasonry is often portrayed as a secretive, powerful organization with far-reaching influence. This portrayal often exaggerates the society's power and influence, but also underscores its enduring mystique. Prominent members of the entertainment industry, such as Jesse Jackson, Denzel Washington, and Terry Bradshaw, have brought Freemasonry into the public eye, contributing to both its positive image as a force for good and its controversial association with secretive political networks. Looking ahead, Freemasonry faces numerous challenges, including a growing mistrust of secret societies and the rise of individualism over collective ideologies. To survive in the 21st century, Freemasonry will need to find ways to adapt and reinvent itself while staying true to its core principles of brotherhood, moral improvement, and charity. However, Freemasonry's rich historical legacy and the deep connections it has with powerful social movements around the world ensure that it will continue to play a role in shaping cultures and societies for the foreseeable future. By focusing on transparency and engaging with new generations, Freemasonry may find a path forward that embraces modern values while preserving its centuries-old traditions. The future of Freemasonry remains uncertain, but its rich history and ongoing influence make it a subject of fascination and importance. Whether viewed as a bastion of tradition or as a secret society cloaked in mystery, Freemasonry continues to inspire debate, intrigue, and admiration across the world.